Well, it's nice to be back home after several weeks away. As I told you last week on the show, I was in the Middle East for several weeks. Quite an experience of viewing how that part of the world views America. We get so many conflicting bits of information in terms of they love us, they hate us, our presence in the countries where there's so much violence over there, still in Afghanistan and Iraq. And then the turmoil going on the edges of the Middle East. Greece, for example, where the economy is in turmoil, will they be able to maintain their present way of life? Get into Turkey, where there was great concern. I was in Turkey for about a week. Great concern with the Syrian uprising, the border skirmishes going on where bombs are being lobbed back and forth across the way. And the reaction of those in Turkey were interesting. Many wanted America to get involved. Others were very ambivalent. Those who were dealing with tourists loved the American money. But there still was the feeling that in Turkey, going on into other parts of the Middle East, that America had let them down, that we were very much in support of their democratic principles now, but for 30 or 40 years we had upheld these dictatorships that was in America's interest. You keep the peace in your area, stay away from the Russians, and in return we'll give you foreign aid. We don't really care or will be involved in the internal affairs of your particular country. And there's a chip on the shoulder of a great number of people in the Middle East that where America is rah-rahing democracy right now, they weren't that concerned about it some years back. So I don't know how you deal with that. I wish I had the easy answer. You want to leave that part of the world alone? We can't for a variety of reasons. There still is great concern about terrorism that's coming from that part of the world. Then what a lot of Americans don't realize is the huge pressures of American countries. Did you know, for example, that Coca-Cola has a major presence in the Middle East, as does so many American countries? Take the Fortune 500 countries, go right down the list. You can go through all your computer-related companies, Microsoft, Apple. You can go to so many of your oil companies, so many of your other suppliers that spend and sell so many goods in the Middle East. They want American presence. They want protection. They want an ambassador there that gives them some entree. So the view that we should just get out of that part of the world, to heck with them, and come on home, we're spending all that money for foreign aid. There are those who would argue that we make that many times over by the sales of American countries in that part of the world. And I don't really know. I've not looked at the figures. I can't break it all down for you. I can just tell you this, there's no easy answer. We're going to be stuck with the violence. We are going to be consumed by the controversy, the love-hate relationship for a long, long time to come. There's just no easy way out. I don't care who's going to be elected president of the United States. Obama has been fairly forceful in the Middle East, quite frankly. I think perhaps too forceful in extending the troops in Afghanistan and Iraq, in sending in drones that have caused a great deal of controversy and hate for our country. You go in to get a bad guy, and we need to get rid of the bad guys, and there are lots of bad guys over there. But when the drone hits, it often gets a number of good folks too, children, families. You've had entire wedding parties destroyed, funeral services being destroyed by drones sent in by America to get a particular bad guy. So you have this moral debate of, is it worth killing 300 or 400 locals to get one really bad apple? And I've got some concerns about that. I've got to tell you, I'm fairly proactive in terms of the military in that part of the world. But when you go in to kill a great number of people to get one, where do we cross the line? Those are debates that, quite frankly, have not been involved in this presidential election. The one final debate going on here at the end of this month is going to be on foreign policy. And so I hope we'll deal with some of those issues. By the way, speaking of debates, real labor of love for me, and I wrote about it in a column this week that's on my website. If you're not on the website now, you can go to www.jimbrownusa.com. And in that column, I talked about the problems I had in watching the debate. I was over in Turkey at the time, and first of all, there's not a lot of American television over. There's no American television. There was occasionally I could get CNBC, the business network. No other American television. And of course, the time difference too. The debate that you saw at 8 o'clock Central Time was where I was some 3 o'clock in the morning. So I got up at 3 o'clock, had a local television set available in an all-night cafe. Was able to get some very strong Turkish coffee, some baklava to kind of pick me up and keep me awake, and found the debate being broadcast over the BBC radio network, the British Broadcasting Network. Thank goodness for the BBC. They did a first-rate job. The only place I could see the debate. And so I watched the whole debate from that part of the world, had the same responses that so many Americans did, that maybe Clint Eastwood was right after all. I was kind of lambasting Clint, but he may have had it right when he was talking to the chair, who was supposed to be the president of the Republican National Convention, because the chair would have been more animated, quite frankly, than the president was at that particular time. When the president spoke, he had moved more central in terms of his positions he talked about, as did Mitt Romney. I think what happened was, quite frankly, that Obama prepared for this conservative voice, refuting his conservative views. Romney becomes a flip-flopper, gets away from the ideology, and talks a lot more in terms of social issues. You know, he was all for teachers, and he was healthcare. He starts laying out his healthcare proponents. I thought I was listening to Obamacare, quite frankly. I didn't see a lot of difference between Obamacare and Mitt Romney, and of course Mitt Romney is the father of Obamacare that he put into play in Massachusetts. Romney moved much more to the center. Didn't hear much out of the conservative elements because I think they feel like, look, Romney's the lesser of the two evils. They'll take him as he is rather than continue with 4 more years of Obama and try to bring the president around. My view is that Romney's focus is going to be economics. It's going to be jobs. It's going to be economic stimulus. I don't think he cares a lot about a lot of these social issues, abortion, gay marriage, that kind of thing. I think he's more ambivalent about them, where the president is very proactive in a cross-section of social issues. Again, it was a huge victory for Mitt Romney, and he was prepared well, looked the part of the president, very aggressive, and also laid back and easygoing. You know, you want a guy that doesn't take himself too seriously, and Romney fit that bill. So we've got 2 more debates we'll certainly watch with interest. But it was fascinating for me to see the kind of response that I received halfway around the world. Tough to stay up. I'm sure glad I drank that tough black Turkish coffee. We'll be right back after this message.